Believe it or not, there's a lot of books out there. Books have been around for a while. And a consequence of this is there are a large number of books that are considered to be classics. And there are a lot of those that are quite popular that you've probably read. You've probably made your way through Dracula. You've probably read 1984. There are also a lot of other classics that have either just fallen out of favor or just aren't read as much. You've probably heard of them, but you probably haven't read them. So that's what I want to do today. I want to go through a few of those lesser known, lesser read classics, and I'm going to tell you why they're worth your time. And I want to start off with the oldest book on my list. Actually, I think I have them set up from oldest to newest. We'll see how this goes. And that is Journey to the West by Wu Cheng-en. And if I said that correctly, please don't judge me. And Journey to the West is a old fairy tale and like Chinese fable. It's about Wukong, and he is the Monkey King, and he's a mischievous Monkey King. Everybody's heard of it. Everybody's probably played the video game or watched an adaptation of it, even if it's as simple as reading Dragon Ball when you were a kid or watching the anime, which is a loose adaptation of Journey to the West. The version that I read here is Monkey. It is a heavily abridged version of the story. The beginning and the end is pretty much the same, but there is just a large amount of mini kind of like episodic kind of adventures that Monkey goes on throughout the story. And Arthur Wally, the translator of this particular version, tried to take the ideas and the themes of the larger story and condense it down to a much more digestible size for, say, a Western audience. And I think it was stupendously done. It is beautiful. It's wonderful. I loved every second of this. Actually, as a matter of fact, I have not read the larger version, which can be like 3 or 4 volumes long. And I really, at some point, I absolutely will consume the larger story just because I want to exist in this world more. The magic, just that weird Buddhist story, the tales of enlightenment and journey and every little lesson that he's learning along the way. Well, sometimes you wonder if he's learning anything at all. He is just so outlandishly mischievous. I'm not entirely sure what I was supposed to take away from the story other than the fact that I had so much fun with it. It was such a joy to read. It was so playful. It's so energetic. It's so wonderful. I really can't recommend this one enough. I would imagine you could grab any version of Journey to the West and have a stupendous time. There are multiple different ones. This just happened to be the one that I picked. It is also the most easily accessible because it is the smallest, and it is probably the most widely read translation other than, I can't think of the name of the translator, but it's like the big 4-volume version. That's pretty much the other one. There are also, I guess, more modernized ones where they update language to try and make it much more accessible. I don't know. Pick a version and read it. It's wonderful. Next up, we're going to go with Robert Chambers' The King in Yellow. And The King in Yellow is a horror book. I'm going to put horror in quotes there because it is not really scary. It's not really a horror anything. The King in Yellow is a book of short stories, and they are just really it's more like the creepy atmosphere and mood that's happening. Some of them, yes, are scary. Some of them are straight up romance stories and love stories, but they all revolve around this idea of this play called The King in Yellow. And it is like a manuscript, a document that exists in the world of this book in these short stories. And anyone who reads it goes insane. And it kind of is sometimes plays a bigger part in the story. Sometimes it's just a document that is mentioned, but it's always there. It is ever present. It is ever hovering in the background. And it is just this really strange and creepy vibe and atmosphere to this world, and there's this weird level of magic to it. One of them was a futuristic sci-fi world that took place in like the 1920s, because when this book was written, 1920s was the future. So yeah, it's wonderful, it's creepy, it's super atmospheric. The language is absolutely just wonderful. I was just swimming in the language of this. Now granted, it could just be the prose of the time, but boy, in the 21st century, it becomes just delicious to just bathe in the language that is The King in Yellow. Next up, I'm going to say Eiji Yoshikawa's Musashi. This is the story of Miyamoto Musashi. Miyamoto Musashi is a real-life samurai that actually existed. His desire and goal was to become the greatest samurai the world had ever known. And he went around and he dueled other samurais in one-on-one combat, and he won every single duel he ever had with another person. He ended up fighting and winning against, I want to say, 60-something odd other people. Then he eventually retired from being a swordsman, and he became a philosopher and an artist. He wrote an actual real-life book on his philosophy of swordsmanship, which was the Book of Five Rings. Now, this is Eiji Yoshikawa's fantastical story of his life. The facts that we actually know about the real-life Musashi are not too many. We know kind of where he was born and where he came from. We know that he fought these people, and we know what he did as he retired. But in between there's not a whole lot to go on. So what Eiji did is he created this 1,000-page story of the epic that was this man's life. And all of these colorful characters come in, and he adds all of these dynamics and all of this. It's almost like if you saw a movie and it said based on true events, and you're like, yeah, but how much of this is real? Because we don't really know what was real. But what we do know is that this book is just pure magic. It is wonderful. It is so entertaining. Like I said, the characters are colorful and enjoyable. Musashi's journey is so, where it begins, how he grows, where he ends up, and where the story chooses to finish, because we do know that it goes on. His life clearly went on after the end of this book, but where Yoshikawa chose to stop the book and how he wraps it up, that final 50 pages was pure brilliance. The final maybe 100 pages of this book took this just straight up into masterpiece territory for me. I loved it so much, and it was so utterly profound. Next, moving on into the realm of the dystopia, we're going to go with Yevgeny Zamyatin's We. And this is the precursor to 1984. This is really what inspired 1984. This is kind of the backbone of all dystopian fiction. If you like dystopian novels, you need to go read We. This was before any of them. This is actually a Russian novel written in Russia pre-Stalin. So this is before, this is really almost prophetic, but it is the idea of this guy living in a totalitarian world. In the world of We, people live in actual glass houses so that you can see through their walls and see inside to see what they were doing. It is the idea of a surveillance state before cameras were invented. How are you going to watch people inside of their houses if you don't have cameras everywhere to see them? Well, we'll just make the houses glass and you can see everything that you're doing. There is 1 hour of the day that you are allowed to drop the shades in your house and give yourself some privacy, and that is the 1 hour that you are allotted to have sexual relations with another person. You need to go to the government, you need to apply for a ticket, and you get a ticket in order to have sex with a person. You need to register who and when and how you're going to do this, and that way the government knows when those shades go down that it has been approved for you to have that privacy for that hour. Then in this book, our main character is going to make the one true worst crime that one can make in this world. He's going to fall in love. But it is not that simple. It is not that story, if that makes sense. It's not that black and white. It's way more gray than, oh, we're falling in love and we're learning to love. It's a little bit more muddy. It's a little bit grayer. Yeah, some of your characters that feel black and white aren't by the end of it. Beautiful. It's fascinating. It is, you can see how it built the dystopian genre, but at the same time, you can see how it's very much its own thing, and it is very much, like I said, almost prophetic, being written by a Russian pre-Stalin. It's fascinating. And then last but not least on my list of classics that I think are just not read nearly enough, I'm going to bring out my boy Gormenghast. I know I've talked about Gormenghast multiple times on this channel, but I haven't talked about it in a while, and this is a very good excuse to talk about it. It is wonderful. I absolutely love and adore this book. I just don't feel like it is heralded near enough on booktube as it should be. So this is what we're going to do. If I have to be that guy, the guy that won't shut the fuck up about Gormenghast, then damn it, I'll be him. Anyway, Gormenghast is a castle, and it was built and is run by the Groen family, and they have been there for so many generations, and they have continuously added on and built on and expanded upon this castle for so long that the people who live here can and do live their entire lives without ever stepping foot outside of the castle. It is so large that there are entire sections of the castle that are in complete disrepair and have been completely forgotten about. People don't even know those sections exist anymore. And then it is just the most colorful characters you could ever imagine running around in this world, and it is silly, and it is pure poetry. There are characters who actually burst out into poetry for seemingly no reason. The prose is fabulous. Then I always try to describe the writing as if Mervyn Peake were like painting a picture in your mind, but he's using words to do it. It is amazing how it's written. And then it's this real light British tale of humor and whimsy and magic. And then at its core, it's ultimately these people live in this really rigid world of traditions. And it ultimately ends up being a story about tradition and what happens to people who are born into a certain role, but then they push back on that role. And we have multiple different characters in this story that are born into a certain role and are expected to do a certain thing, but they push back. And these different characters will push back on that tradition and on what is expected of them in very different ways. And we move on and explore it from there. Anyway, everybody, is there a classic that you feel like should be read more often? And what is that book? As always, everybody, the link for my Patreon's in the description below. The link for my Discord's in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.